Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining the channel today. Hope you're doing well wherever you may be. I'm Dane, your host. Today is episode 15 in my little mini-series called Back to Back, the greatest album pairs of all time. And what it takes to be part of the greatest album pairs of all time are, number one, they must be back to back in the discography. Two, they must complement one another or they work as companion albums. The second one, chronologically speaking, must pick up where the previous one left off in some fashion or fashions. They could have been a double album is a nice way to think of it. And they must both be seminal works. So today's episode is another band from the United Kingdom. They are a progressive rock band. And I have lots to say about these two wonderful albums. And I'm talking about Genesis, Nursery Cryme, and Foxtrot. So let's start with Nursery Cryme. You have the wonderful, fabulous opening track, The Musical Box, one of my favorite songs by them of all time. I think it's one of the greatest prog rock songs of all time. It's a lot of light and shade here, although I wish there was more shade. Let's face it, if you're a Genesis fan, you know that at times, probably more often than not, Hackett seems to have been held back by the rest of the band, and hence him leaving in the midst of the releasing of the live album Seconds Out. Anyway, the live version also of Musical Box is quite good. It's a little heavier in parts. This song has a pastoral, classical feel to it, with bits of edge in moments, right? That Hackett factor that I love so much that I wish there was more of. It's relaxing at times, but it's fabulous. This is a song to just sit down, plant yourself, and just take it all in. At the 3-minute and 37 mark, this collaboration between Banks and Hackett is just fabulous. It has this galloping feel to it. It's just amazing. Then you have this soaring and amazing Hackett, where Hackett takes off a little bit more than Banks does. It's just great. Just wish, again, there was more of Hackett in the layering and the technique and all that he does. That's so quite amazing. Just more of that guitar. Sometimes I think the guitar is a little bit overshadowed by what Banks is doing. Here, not so much. But again, I just wish there was more of that Hackett factor in the discography. And then after that, you get back to some lighter waters with Gabriel's vocals, but he has this heaviness to his vocals at times in the song. And you have more galloping goodness that lasts a while, thank goodness, from Hackett. And then it shifts to a more softer, She Is a Lady, Gabriel sings, right? So we're coming down from that heaviness, and the shift sounds a bit similar to what's going on at times in Supper's Ready, the first and second parts of that song. And then it ends with Gabriel's repetition of Touch Me Now, Touch Me Now, Touch Me Now. It's just great. And the guitar coming in at the end, kind of a quasi-soaring quality to it, just great. Then you get For Absent Friends, which I'm a big fan of. Just a nice, quiet, and soft tune that's just a joy to listen to. Essentially, the vocals are the best part. Next, we have The Return of the Giant Hogweed. I used to laugh at the song title because it has a Monty Python-esque-ness to it. But if you pay attention to the lyrics, and this is not my, I didn't come up with this idea or reference or parallel, whatever you want to call it, but I talked about this album before in a previous video, and a person who commented said that, it was my video on my top 25 favorite science fiction based songs of all time, and this was one of them, and I think it was. Anyway, a person commented, he suggested this should have been on a list, I think. Anyway, the person commented and I had never thought of it before, that this song has if you're familiar with the movie Day of the Triffids quality to it. I was like, wow, that is quite an interesting parallel. I haven't seen that movie in years, but I get the reference. So you have an interesting opening to the song, which has a mechanical feel to it. I don't know if it's Banks manipulating with technology his keys and synths. I don't know if it's Hackett doing it or both, but I like it. Despite the mechanical feel to it. I love Peter Gabriel's phrasing here and his delivery. And some of the lyrics dealing with how the hogweed was picked up in the Russian hills and then exported back to London. And then part of the song is about when it's brought back, the hogweed is made as a gift to someone. And I don't know, I did not know much about this type of plant, but apparently they're very dangerous, especially if you have allergies. But you know, they grow and grow, and they're just a menace to get rid of, right? So this is an exaggeration of that, I believe. It is, excuse me, because there's some sci-fi stuff going on here. And one of my greatest, or rather favorite lines here is when Gabriel sings "Strike by Night," because they're trying to, you know, get rid of what the hogweed has done to the country, right? Agriculturally speaking, affecting the people. Just a great part of Gabriel's vocals here when he delivers that phrase. He's angry sounding. The song is very English and pastoral. The solo, especially at the 4-minute and 30-second mark, which is quite good. It's building that tension, right? Then you have that lush piano that follows that. Banks is just remarkable here. And then the last minute or so, you have this chilling bit because of the music ties into the language and the lyrics of the hogweed taking over, or the hogweeds, or the hogweed changing and altering the chemistry of the humanoid peoples, or the humans rather, kind of like not just Day of the Triffids, but Attack of the Mushroom People, if you know that old Japanese sci-fi movie from the 40s or 50s, maybe 60s. A horrible twist at the end, right? Anyway, so humanity's being taken over. And this is all instrumental. And then the last line of the lyrics is just the genus and species of this plant that exists in real life, which adds to that creepiness that they've taken over, that sort of thing. Great song, though. Next is Seven Stones, Old Man Telling His Tale. It's a slow song. I like it, but I'm not crazy about it until the 3-minute and 12-second mark, where you get the ah-ha-ha part, right? I'm not doing that right. The keys from Banks are spectacular, and then the guitar and keys, the last minute or so, is what makes this piece. It's very moving. It has a soundtrack feel to it. So I do like the song, but it's the last half or third of the song that really makes it for me. And then you get Harold the Barrel. It's a quirky song. It's upbeat, has a quasi-Beatles feel to it. The slower parts here are my favorite, not the quirky parts. Overall, the song's mediocre, but I do like it. I do often skip it, though. It's my least favorite song on the album. Next is Harlequin. The opening similar in tone to Supper's Ready, I find. Not that that's a bad thing. It's a quiet song, folky. I like it. This makes me think that what would Genesis do if they did a Crosby, Stills and Nash type song? Here it is. That's how I see the song. It's Crosby, Stills and Nash with a Genesis touch, and I like it. Next is one of my favorite Genesis songs of all time, and that is The Fountain of Salampsis. We're going into literally Greek mythology waters here. I just love the intro. Has that soundtrack movie feel. This is based on Ovid's Metamorphosis, the Roman author who picked up from the Greek myths, right? This is the story of the son of Hermes and Aphrodite. His name is Hermaphroditus, and he wanders into the fountain pool area of the goddess minor sea deity, the cat. Okay, never mind. So he wanders into the fountain or waters of the area, if you will, this natural area he's not seen before, because he gets off the beaten path during a hunting trip. And so he enters her area, her pool, fountain, whatever you want to call it, and she has a trap laid out for whoever comes here. And so if you know anything about Ovid's Metamorphosis, all the stories are about someone who undergoes this extreme physical change, usually for the worse. We'll come to that. So she's a sea nymph, as I was trying to say, as I got sidetracked by my feisty cat. It's that time of the day. So as Gabriel sings, this is a search for conquest, hence the deer hunting trip of Hermaphroditus. And yet he's conquered by love. And conquered here is not necessarily a good thing. There are consequences. Rutherford's bass in the song is one of my favorite bits from him. I just love it. It's a top 5 song for me. Banks playing, his arrangements are just so good, right? It's just so good. And then you get Gabriel's vocals of "We shall be one, we shall be joined as one," shouts Salampsis to Hermaphroditus. And then you get this great heavy part at 3 minutes and 20 seconds. You get great bass solo again, you get a great bass solo this time, not just some runs or fills or that sort of thing. And then the keys that follow. And then you get Hackett. Wow, just amazing. And then Hermaphroditus shouts, or Gabriel as Hermaphroditus shouts, "Away from me, you cold-blooded woman. Your thirst is not mine. We don't share the same goal." Too late, he's already trapped by the curse or the whatever makes the water change your body physically. And so they're joined as one, literally. You can talk about when couples get married, they're now one. Right here, it's literal because their bodies fuse into one being. And so he's trapped with her there forever. Ouch, right? Banks's keys at 5 minutes and 35 seconds. Just some of his best work of all time. That classical sound, it's just phenomenal. And the chilling intro part, the motif of that comes back, has that soundtrack feel right. And then Rutherford's bass comes back in again. It's just amazing. And then you have these haunting last lyrics. "A lover's dream had been fulfilled at last, forever still beneath the lake." And then you get the dreamy and then that last great little snippet of guitar from Hackett, which is just fabulous. You turn the heater off. Sorry about that. Just a dynamite song, right? Oh man, it's so good. I love it. I never get tired of this song. And lastly, when it comes to Fountain of Salampsis, it makes me think just a little bit of Rush's The Fountain. The Fountain of Lamnath. Not because it has fountain in the title, but because even though the themes are different, both stories and pieces of music deal with consequences when it comes to choosing a certain path. That there are dangers in the choices that we make is essentially the similar theme, but they're more specifically different than that. So anyway, let's talk about Foxtrot, right? What a great album. Starts with the beautiful Watchers in the Sky. What a great pair of albums. Again, you can listen to these as a double. Watcher in the Skies is perfect where it is in the opening, same way that Musical Box is. Gotta open with great bookend. Gotta open and close with great bookends, and that's what both of these albums do. All right, so Watcher of the Skies. The intro has a cinematic feel, like you're watching an old-fashioned classic movie, maybe a horror or detective horror, maybe an old romance, maybe an old gothic movie. Until the rhythm section comes in, you have the bass, drums, and keys, which are just fabulous. The song is strangely, in a good way, haunting, yet something to quietly rock to. The lyrics, the story, and theme is cool too. Sci-fi, maybe even Lovecraftian here. Near the end of the song, you have this to and fro between the drums and the keys, which is just fabulous. And then essentially the drums and the keys are playing the same arrangement, the same notes and chords, until Banks shows up, right? Or rather moves up in the mix a bit, and man, and the ending is just fabulous. What a great song. Next you get Timetable. Classical piano intro. The way I describe the song is this This is Genesis's version of Aerosmith's Kings and Queens because it's about the same subject matter to a degree. It's a nice melodic song. It has what I call 3 soft gears. You have this really soft opening, and then the next section is still soft, but it's a little up in pitch or octave, and then the third part is still soft, but a little bit up in pitch and octave or something, or just tone, right? Just a great song. Underrated. Next, we get the fabulous Get 'Em Out by Friday. You have the slow intro that's brief. It's upbeat. Is this a song that's a criticism of capitalism and materialism? Gabriel rolls his R's at the beginning of when he starts singing vocally. I'm not sure. It's quirky. I'm not sure if I like it, but it's brief. 2/3 in the way, and it's more pastoral with flute and keys. Maybe am I hearing bass there? I'm not sure. And then Gabriel sings about genetic control. That's like a branch of science in the song, and they're talking about humanoids being shipped out. So it's sci-fi. It's a dystopian nightmare, perhaps. The last half is more moody, suggesting that dystopian feeling, right? And then you get a return to Peter Gabriel's quirky singing style that we get at the beginning of the song. But the ending has like a majesty to it. So I really like the song, despite its sometimes quirkiness. Next, you get Can Utility and the Coastliners. Great song. I'm not sure if the opening is harpsichord or it's Banks making his keys sound that way. And then I hear recorder or flute. It could even be oboe. I'm not sure. The lyrics are fantastic. The music has that majestic quality to it that we know and love from Genesis, early Genesis, right? Both of these albums, in parts, has that majestic quality to it. I don't know how else to describe it, but that's what many of us love about Genesis. A third in, you have some soft keys with drum and bass, has that soundtrack feel to it. Then you have a hint of violin, I believe, which is great. Could be the keys imitating that, I'm not sure. This is one of their best arrangements, top notch all around when it comes to the Genesis catalog. There's just so much going on here musically. There's a large palette they're using, just great. In many ways, this album is what Rush does with Farewell to Kings, although they're apples and oranges sonically and sounding and tone and all that. But what I mean by that is that all the members in Genesis here, they're just using a wide swath of musical things to pick and choose, and everything they pick, just so many instruments and so many arrangements and so many shifts from here to this mood throughout the album. And in this piece, they're just genius. And then what Pert and Leon Lyson do in A Farewell to Kings is very similar. This is where Pert has upgraded his kit to all these little wood blocks and chimes. Same thing, just fabulous. All right, then we get to the underrated Horizons. It's a short piece. It's acoustic. It's pastoral. It has a medieval feel to it at times. This song makes me think of A Farewell to Kings, as I was just mentioning, because of the acoustic guitar. And so at first, what's going on, it sounds a bit like Alex Lifeson, has that feel, but then it sounds like Steve Howe of Yes, so it's kind of cool, right? Not intentional, I'm sure. Anyway, but it makes me think of that. This is just a great song, despite its brevity. All right, next, Supper's Ready. The first part is my favorite part. It's the haunting piece. It's the biographical piece that we know, where Gabriel was having dinner or a glass of wine or whatever with his wife, and who knows if it was Gabriel who was on something, or his wife, or both of them. Not passing judgment, but that's part of the story, right? And he says in the lyrics that something about her face didn't look just right, and then he got in closer and he was frightened, right? And so a very haunting feel to it is great. And then he describes these 7 figures walking across the lawn, and his delivery in the vocals here is just amazing. I get goosebumps just talking about it right now. I know that I say that a lot, but hey, it's who I am. Don't change me. So you have these saintly shrouded men cross the lawn. He describes 6 of them as that, and then he says there's a 7th in front of them leading the way, holding a cross up high, foreshadowing Is this an exorcism going to be performed on his wife? That's what it, suggests to me and others. And the acoustic guitar here is just like, wow. It's just phenomenal. And then the second piece is my second favorite part of the song. There's a segue piece between part 1 and part 2. I call it an interlude. You get like, is it a harpsichord or is it Banks imitating that with his synths? I don't know. But regardless if it's a harpsichord or his synthesizer, Moog or Mellotron, who knows? It's just fabulous. And you get this short but brief run from Hackett that's quite nice. And then you get the wonderful, lush lyrics from Gabriel. I know a farmer, right? Oh man, so great. And you have other things in this piece, the supersonic scientist, the guaranteed eternal sanctuary man, this creepiness, this hauntingness comes back, right? You hear kids' voices at play, or are they having a seance? It's not clear, which ties back to the first part of the song, but it's great. Even though the first and second part of the song are my favorite parts, I love the whole song as a whole. It's great. Part 3, Gabriel, you hear him at some point, a quick exhale lends well to the song if you catch it. It's sometimes, if you're not paying attention, you'll miss it, right? For the first time I heard the song, and up until, I don't know, after 5 or 6 plays, I didn't really hear it. And then one day I'm listening to him and go, wait a minute, never heard that before. Anyway, so I talked about the children of the West, the dark-skinned warriors. You have this heaviness, that's in the lyrics. You have this heaviness with the quality of the keys from Banks. You have this potion he describes to contain his emotions. A little bit more creepiness there, right, in a sense. Hackett's great here with the solo. Then there's a second solo from him in this part. And then, as I said, Banks is just on fire. Banks is tremendous. Wow. Everyone in this piece is just tremendous. Next, you get part 4. You have description of the plateau of green grass, Narcissus, the Greek characters turned into a flower, and you have the quirkiness that we saw in previous songs, the kind of Monty Python-esque or circus kind of vaudeville stuff where, and I don't mind it here because it's brief and Gabriel intones a flower, right? It's quirky, it's Monty Python-esque, as I said. There's a in the lyrics there's the phrase music box, so it's a reference back to that perhaps. Winston Churchill is described as dressed in drag, so again, more quirkiness. And then you get this metamorphosis of different objects and creatures changing. A brick becomes an egg, and an egg becomes a human, and I'm not getting those right, but it's a bunch of things, very quirky, but fun, and I like it. And then what's great here, you have all these different intonations and inflections from Gabriel. That's what makes this part of the song, this part 4 song. And then Hackett's guitar comes in, slow police siren sounding, quasi-police siren sounding. You have these dramatic keys from Banks, and then the flute comes in, which is just spectacular, it's just amazing. And then you get part 5. References to the Piper vocally, the gods, dragons out of the sea from Gabriel. And then I love this personification from Gabriel. He says, wisdom looking at me. Wow. And then you get the stop, start kind of feel from the band. It's like Rush meets Emerson, Lake and Palmer, but Genesis doing it. That's how it makes me feel. I don't know if Banks is imitating Emerson on purpose. I doubt it, but it makes me think that. Regardless, is great. And Banks' solo here, wow. And then the drums kicking with that, or share the spotlight with that, it's just fabulous. And then when all the instruments come back in, you're just like, wow, right? And this is an amazing song. And then you get a little bit of more haunting stuff. Each little piece is a little bit more, just a tiny bit of haunting to it, even though the first piece is the most haunting part, right? And you hear Gabriel belt 666, and he sounds angry, and then he says, sweet rock and roll, right? It's great. There's some great lyrics here. And then the next part, the motif from the beginning returns, because we're coming full circle. We're returning to normality or normalcy. You hear church bells or chimes or both, and then it's back to the motif of hey baby, Our love is true, right? That's great. Excuse me. And then in this piece of the song, perhaps, just perhaps, this is Gabriel sounding at his best. His dramatic flair, you name it. He's driven, he's passionate. That emotion is in his voice, that commitment, right? And then he sings, there's an angel standing in the sun, and he tells us finally what supper this is. This biblical reference. It's the King of Kings, the New Jerusalem, and there's other synonyms for Christ here. The music is just superb. Just sometimes you just can't describe it. You can't put it into words. It's intense. It's moody. It's dynamite. Overall, this is the most unique song probably in rock and roll history. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great day. Take care now. Bye-bye.